Okay, and we'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I got a couple videos I'd like to share with people tonight. I will be posting them up on YouTube video and what's going on around, because it is our responsibility to educate ourselves and our children. And that's the one thing that people got to realize. They go, oh, I send my kids to school. They're doing all this wonderful stuff, the school district. No, they don't. They failed. 2002, I can prove it because I recalled the entire Lincoln County School Board. To my knowledge, never been done in an entire government body recalled in the state of Oregon. And in 2003, that's when Kate Brown, the Democratic Party, dismantled the local school committee because the local school committee had legal and lawful authority over the school board, principals, administration. But they don't want you to know this stuff. It's like your Fifth Amendment right, and it's knowing how to stand on your fifth. And these are things that, you know, if you got another individual that you can practice with, you know, on these type of things, it's great to do scenarios on traffic stops and those type of things where they start coming in and violating rights. So this is all strictly up to you on how you're doing it, and you've got to do it. And you got to realize it's your responsibility. Everybody goes to a cop or public servant yelling at them or whatever, going, I have these rights, I have these rights. You don't yell at them, you don't disrespect them. Number one, you got to remember they're human. They're human. Some have feelings, some don't. That's a reality. But you can't sit there and argue with them, because when you argue with them, you lose. And people say, oh, no, that doesn't work, you can do that. No, you know, you watch some of these YouTube videos are a perfect example out there. You got men and women who, you know, politely respond to these elected and public servants, and you got people who are yelling at them. Well, you know, it's like when they get stopped over, you wonder why they're breaking the window out and stuff. You know, I have rights. Who the hell gives you rights? And I always love it when people say, God, the Bible gives me rights. The Bible gives me rights. The Bible gives you no rights. The only Constitution right you have is by the Constitution. And once you folks start comprehending that the Bible does not give you rights in any of these administrative courts, because these administrative courts are run by the Bible. They're all run by religious points of view. I mean, come on, look at your history of your Supreme Court decisions. You know, especially this guy who goes after the First Amendment because he doesn't want to bake cakes for gay and lesbians. Okay, well, all right, great. They played that game. They're still debating it, too, even though he won his second case, but they're still debating it. And the thing is that he has a constitution right to serve who he wants. But see, people don't know how to stand up. They don't know how to file their cases. They don't know how to file this stuff or the proper wording. You can't sit there and yell and scream that I got religious rights or I have these rights. You have to know your rights. And I mean, literally, you have to know your rights. You have to read this stuff, carry your instruments in your covered wagon so that way you have them. You know, you can always present them to the officer that is stamped. You always, if you're doing your own stuff, always get it certified, notarized, and registered and filed with the county and preferably with the state Secretary of State. See, it's knowing how to do the channels, and they know this. You think these cops don't know this stuff? You're lying to yourself. You know, especially when the CPS workers or these people say, I don't know this stuff. They're lying to you. Grow up and be an adult. Quit being a child and listening to these people buying these lies. Oh, and then when they do that, this is where you end up screwing on your Fifth Amendment right. You talk to them and you give them information so they can arrest you. That's the whole point. You know, if you get to the point where you say a certain word that they can arrest you on, kidnap and held you for ransom, they will do it. Remember, they don't care about you. They don't care about your mommy. They don't care about your daddy, your brother, sister, your uncle, anybody else. They care about their income. Just like you personally care about your income. You don't care about nobody else at your job. Even when you see criminal activities, you turn your head, you bury your head, you don't want to deal with it because everybody says, oh, I didn't see anything. I mean, I've had my neighbor where they tried to beat me to death, and when they kidnapped me and held me for hostage, you know, he's like, they shouldn't have arrested you for speaking up. And I'm like, yeah. And then people down at South Nye Beach, 2008, when they tried to beat me to death. And everybody goes, oh, we don't want nothing to do with it, but we'll be a witness, but then we don't want to be a witness. So it amazes me that people have no courage today. And you lie to your children about it, too. You don't even ask your children about courage. You don't teach and educate your kids right. And then you want to blame the school district or somebody else when it's your responsibility. So it is disturbing. The Fifth Amendment is your right not to incriminate yourself. Let me repeat this. Not to incriminate yourself. The minute you open your mouth, you incriminate yourself. And I know people that says, oh, I tape recorded this. And then when you go to court, you have your tape recording, and then you have the judge or somebody else, the cop or somebody else. And sometimes you end up with two witnesses against you. Well, who's the jury going to believe? 2 against 1? Come on, wake up. Learn the reality of life. You do it yourself. So how come you're not preaching it to others when you do it to yourself? And you do it around people around you when you do that stuff. You know it happens. You know you do it. So this is the one thing that when people stop doing this and start learning their rights, and even if you're an immigrant, you have privileges, yes, but also, too, they can't just sit there and harass you. If you are a legal immigrant and gone through all the paperwork and all the structure to file to be in this country, and our country gives you a stamp of seal, okay, and don't forget, you still, by law, have to register with the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. I don't care what people tell you. They lie. ALCU is the biggest con and liar. They don't work for the people. They work for the court systems. Look at each state and ask your senators and state representatives how much they donate to the ALCU, American Liberty Union. American Liberty Alliance Union. So, I mean, you got to sit there and realize what's going on around you. Because if you're not comprehending to protect your Fifth Amendment right, now next Saturday I'm going to play a 15-minute tape on the 14th Amendment. And we're going to do that for a couple weeks until we get to the 14th Amendment, because I'm trying to get these things into people's heads so you guys can start comprehending the reality compared to what you are. I mean, I had one guy that I was going to boost up tonight on the internet, because he did a wonderful job the way he handled the California cops and stuff. But then it turned out the guy was a jerk. He doesn't care about anybody else but himself. He's a self-centered man. And so when you run into people like that, walk away from those people. Stay away from them, because those are the people that are going to bury you. Those are the men and women that turn tail and are informants. And yes, I witnessed informants before in my past, and I've been in certain industries where I know how it works. So this is the one thing that you have to realize. Your Fifth Amendment is your Fifth Amendment. Lawful, bloodline native, or even legal citizen. You know, if you're an illegal immigrant, sorry, you have no Fifth Amendment rights. You have no rights, period. I don't give a damn what the American Civil Liberties Union tells you. They lie, they cheat, they steal. And if you look at their foundation, their whole structure is to destroy this country. Exactly. They're out to destroy this country, the American Civil Liberties Union. They do not care about anybody but themselves. I have personally had experience with them over the last 15 years. I have been even recommended by major attorneys in the state of Oregon to have them take my case. And they said, oh, no, we can't take your case because we don't have enough lawyers on staff. So they pick and choose, and that's why they're going after to protect the immigration and illegal immigrants, because they're making money, more money on that than anything else. Because remember, your tax dollars are paying American Civil Liberties Union. They say they're a nonprofit and they don't get paid. Bullshit. That's why I ask you. Call your senator and congressman. Ask them how much is in the budget for the American Civil Liberties Union. You will find out they are in the budget. And they lie about it constantly. And I've argued with some of these men and women. The past and president of Oregon, I've argued with him. He didn't like it when I proved the facts, because he hung up on me more than once. And it's like, what, you don't like the truth? Well, you're not supposed to know this, Ed. You're not supposed to handle this. You're not supposed to do this. That's our job. Remember, when you hire an attorney, a lawyer, you give up your constitutional rights 100% straight across the board, and you give them the authority to either put you in jail, and that's why people don't realize when you get kidnapped and held for ransom without a driver's license stuff, the attorney's making money while you're in jail because your case is still open, so they get paid. Even when they come in to supposedly talk to you. I mean, I got my attorney that was billing saying he came to visit me when I was in jail when he never did. He came to see me once, and I laid it out for him, and then I've got it on YouTube video where he's telling me, hey, Ed, if they kill you and murder you, whatever, that's okay because it's not murder. It's called homicide. So when you hear homicide in these news stories and stuff, you know more than likely a cop or a public servant assaulted or harmed or took the man or woman's life, including children. You know, I was shocked that I watched another video with a kid that got arrested recently for farting in the classroom, offensive odor. They handcuffed this little kid, prayed him through the school. What an embarrassment to the kid. But you got to remember, these men and women don't care about you. They don't care about the embarrassment to children. That's why they rape, rob, and pillage, because they make money off you. So this is why the Fifth Amendment is so apparently for you to start standing and learning how to say this stuff. And when they try to say, oh, we're going to talk to you and we're this is off the record or anything like that, they lie. Nothing is off the record with these elected and public servants, ever, including CHP, including CPS workers, all of them. Nothing is off the record, period. So when you start opening your mouth and talking to these people, and especially you think you're telling the truth, that truth will be used against you in a court of law because you talk to the cop. That's the point. You talk to him or her. It's to be used against you in a court of law. It's not there to protect you. It is not there to help you. And once you folks start comprehending how you folks violate your Fifth Amendment rights, legal citizen or even lawful bloodline native, you screw yourself up. And this is the saddest part that we're living today, and it's a reality. So I got a couple videos. One is over lawyers telling you about that. And remember, the Miranda rights do exist. It's not a joke about the Miranda rights. That's why I would suggest that you carry a copy that's registered, certified, and you have it registered, certified, from the Secretary of your state corporation. Because when you get it certified and recommended by the Secretary of State and you have that deal, that is admitting that that is your protection. They have to go by that. So you have the head guy or woman for that state admitting that you have rights. So, and then without that, that's even right to travel, because I'm finally almost done with this letter to the county commissioners. Because I have to go through it because I want to make sure when I put this thing together, because basically I'm writing an indictment to them with this letter. Because I'm writing an indictment on them. And that is the one point. When this thing hits, people are going to freak out, because I am actually writing an indictment into this letter. Because they've already done this, because all the county jails in the state of Oregon and across the country are privately owned by the attorneys, lawyers, judges, and by the corporations that are in your own town. So it is important to know who is in your town, knowing who's on these committees in your city and county. And it is important to know this stuff. I talk to people all the time, well, it doesn't matter to me, who cares? And then when they get into trouble, and I said, well, who's this and who's that? Oh, that's that business owner. Well, how come you haven't paid attention to it? They own part of the jail. They're a stock investor. Oh, that doesn't matter. And it's like, you guys it amazes me how ignorant people are to their own words of reality. So, but anyhow, let's go ahead and start the first video, and then after that, we'll get that one done, then we'll do the second one, and then I'll get further in, and then we'll open up the floor. Are we there? Hello? Okay, I can't argue that one. I get you that. Well, I wasn't there to witness that you were doing potty training, so, you know. Yeah.
Welcome to James Madison's Montpelier. I'm Ryan Nobles from NBC 12 in Richmond, and we're continuing our conversation on the Bill of Rights, joined by Police Chief Tim Longo from Charlottesville, who's also an attorney, Hank Chambers, who's a law professor at the University of Richmond, and Peter Irons, who's a widely published author and the political science professor emeritus at UC San Diego. Gentlemen, we're going to talk now about the Fifth Amendment. And Hank, give us some historical context for the Fifth Amendment, which includes a grand jury, double jeopardy, and self-incrimination.
You raise a real good point just by throwing in those three things. In some ways, it's a kitchen sink amendment. It throws in everything that says government can't do bad stuff in certain circumstances. That's really pretty much what it says. Due process clause is really about saying that the government has to follow procedures and rules before they can inflict harm or pain on people. And you see the self-incrimination piece is sort of a piece of that. It says you can't torture people. You can't do bad stuff to folks just to get them to confess. So that's the basic notion. Again, it comes from the Old English version of due process and the idea that there are limits to what the government can do, even though the government should be somewhat powerful in any society.
Why did the Founding Fathers think it was important, Peter?
Well, they thought it was important because of the experiences during the colonial period, and particularly back in England where they had what were called star chambers, and they used all kinds of means, physical torture and duress to get confessions out of people. In fact, in earlier days, they even had these things where they would put people on stools over pools of water and dunk you under, and if you drowned, it meant you were guilty. So,
because you're an old Salem boy, right? So you know the story over there.
That's what, and we still do that with waterboarding too. But I think the point is that until the middle of the 20th century, torture in various forms was used to extract confessions. It's the old take them in the back room with the rubber hose. And the Supreme Court decided a case, it's called Williams versus Mississippi, in which an African-American defendant had been beaten until he confessed. It turned out he actually wasn't guilty, but the court for the very first time said that confessions extracted through physical pain or emotional distress could not be used against a defendant.
And Chief, why do we have this provision that allows people to protect themselves under the Fifth Amendment and not self-incriminate themselves?
Let's make sure we understand. We're talking about compelled self-incrimination. Mm-hmm. Self-incrimination can be a great thing. We call it admissions against self-interest.
Right.
The Constitution prohibits compulsion. And the reason so is, as Peter just pointed out, when someone is compelled to do something, whatever that something may be, it renders whatever the product is as involuntary. And that offends due process. That goes completely against what the Fifth and, frankly, the Sixth Amendment is all about in the criminal justice system. It's about making a process fair for people at their most vulnerable time. And if you've ever been arrested and charged with a crime and had to appear in court, you appreciate and value the Fifth and Sixth Amendment and the protection that it affords you. And so this is an important piece of the criminal justice process.
So make that distinction as clear as possible. It's a big difference between someone who's committed a crime walking up to you and saying, I've done this, versus you attempting.
Absolutely. For the same reason, any criminal defendant has the absolute right to take that witness stand. What the law says is the fact that they don't can't be held against them and create this presumption, well, then they must be guilty. But yes, folks are free to make admissions against self-interest. The Constitution protects against compelled self-incrimination.
Remember, confession is good for the soul as well as anything else.
Amen.
So as a consequence, you are more than welcome to confess to things that you've done. You just can't have someone standing over you beating you until you say what you did, because you just want to make it stop. That's why you confess. You just want to make it stop, and you can't have it.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I want to get you to the point to realize that one police chief says he's a lawyer and a police chief. That's illegal. So it is when you're filing your paperwork and knowing these men and women what their positions are. Their positions in life, their positions in their public service servitude, what they are doing. That is your responsibility. And I've been on the phone this last week with people trying to argue with me that, and I say, are you an adult? Well, yes, then do this and read this. You can't make excuses for yourself. If you're claiming to be adult and responsible, then be responsible. Quit playing these head games with yourself and your children. It's amazing because people will sit there and go, well, I believe in God. He's going to handle all my cases. He's going to do all this. Well, that's wonderful. It's like I've been saying this for the last few months. You know, I tell people all the time. Well, actually, the last couple of years, but I've been bringing it up when it's on the education show. And it's like I tell them, when you meet God, tell him to call me or show up at my door. I want to meet him. Because when you put your instruments in, and remember, you have to put your instruments in as soon as you get an infraction on yourself. And remember, they cannot arrest you and kidnap you and throw you in jail from an infraction. The Supreme Court even recently said that. I believe it was April this year. And I sent it out. I don't know if it's been posted yet or not. But you can't do this. You can't incriminate yourself. And so a lot of people do this when they have CPS workers or they come to the door. That's why I've been sharing some of these videos. I think we got some of them posted. That people are going off on these CPS workers and cops telling them to get the hell out of their property or out of their apartment. They don't have rights. And I was like, well, we want to check on your children. I don't give a damn if you want to check on somebody's children. Go get a warrant. And this is what happened with a man here recently that I just posted the article up on the Facebook channels. Oregon Trackers, United States for America, Republic, Elected and Public Servants Oversight, the Civil War, 1866, Lawful Bloodline Americans, and Recall K. Brown. And I posted up, this guy sat there and shot 2 cops who were trying to steal his kids from him, ordered by so-called CPS terrorizing group. Remember, this is no different at all from Adolf Hitler and Nazism. Fascism is Nazism. Socialism is Nazism. So once you start putting these pieces together and comprehending what the reality is compared to the fantasy you're living in your mind, you know, because there is no Disney. Disney doesn't exist because Disney was mechanically built, so that way it's for entertainment only. So you pay a high price, what is it, $150 a day to go to Disneyland. That's a little ridiculous, but they got to cover all the insurance, losses, other stuff with that price. And it's the same thing you do with your own business. You put your prices at a certain rate, so that way you have to cover insurance and these things that are lost because you're under 1963 Uniform Commercial Code. Prior to that, we didn't have commercial code, international law that was dictating to us. I mean, realistically, people didn't start paying property taxes or any of this stuff going back even in the 1970s. I was arguing property taxes for people in 1993 at the Lincoln County Commissioner's Office in public hearings. And I was in the papers on this stuff. And the papers today are so controlled. They don't know, you know, they don't write things. I get people all the time that send me emails. You need to talk to this reporter. They'll write your story. And I've already got emailing back. I said, I've been dealing with them. They don't give a damn. Well, they did this in another state. They followed through in another state. Yeah, they did it. And because of what they did, they got hired in another newspaper that doubled their money. And they're told not to write this stuff. So they're doing what they're told. And you got to realize people do what they're told. You do it on your job. Because if you don't do what you're told, you don't have employment. You personally and I personally know that. You know, I mean, I've been an employer. I've been a manager. I've been through this. And people didn't follow my instructions. They were terminated. Simple. Easy. And there is no right to work in this country. See, that's a myth. Even when you got a couple states that have this right to work shit and you go to court or you fight it, you don't get nowhere. Because the state just dismisses your case. When you file it in the labor board, you never hear from them. So, I mean, that's the one thing, is paying attention to what's going on around you. So when a cop says, you have a Fifth Amendment right not to speak, shut your freaking mouth. You know, that's the one thing. And you think that every time you open your mouth that it's helping you? They're using your words and figuring how they're going to twist it in court against you. That's their job. Their employment is to make a living off of you. Their employment is to make income for the jails, the Senate, the House, the city, the counties. Most of all, the state corporation. So once you realize that this is how your Fifth Amendment is being used against you, shut your mouth. Because when you talk, you're not doing yourself any good. I have personally been there myself, made an ass out of myself by talking and thinking they were honorable. I've been blessed to have a few honorable public servants, you know, but also, too, you get to learn their demeanor, their manner of how they're acting, too. Sometimes they're reasonable, rational. Some of these public servants want to hear if you really know it, so they'll go on their way. They really will. But they want to know, they want to confirm that you know what you're talking about. Excuse me, not just yelling out words and statements that you cannot comprehend what you're really saying. You just heard it on the internet, or you read somebody's post or somebody's email, or it was passed on to you. You have to research this stuff to know what the heck you're talking about. And if you don't research everything that's going on around you, you know, and then you wonder why things don't work. I mean, that even goes with the IRS, because the IRS, you don't sign a damn thing with the IRS. I never pay taxes. I mean, I've had them send me letters, and I see who it's from. I put return to sender. You know, simple. I don't respond to them. Of course, I haven't had any of those type of letters until after I wrote my letter in 93 and 93 to them. But see, the main point is you got to remember, all these men and women around you are out for the buck. You're out for the buck. True. Let's be realistic. Let's be honest. Let's not play psychological babble games. Because you're just no different than a public servant or a cop, because you want the money. You want to have an income. And I've almost got the other stuff on 192 written to be posted up and get out. But, I mean, you're no different than they are. I mean, I have fun with people on the internet all day long. I'm on the internet an average of 15 hours a day. Literally. And I have fun with people all the time that go off on these tangents, and I'll ask them questions. And next thing you know, I don't get a response, or I get blocked, because that tells me the truth right there when they block me. And so, you know, it is interesting, because these men and women are out there saying they want to educate people. They don't give a damn about people. They want the damn, that's why they got these nonprofit stuff on their websites and stuff. We want money. I mean, all these people are out there selling T-shirts and stuff. Well, what's the guarantee with a T-shirt? Do you get a contract with that T-shirt so that way you get it notarized to protect your ass? No. But that's the other thing. You know, these people are selling T-shirts for $30 to $50 that only cost $12 to make. And you don't get a copy of a contract. You don't get public information with that stuff. You just get a T-shirt, and these people pocket the money. And that's the reality. You know, I have talked to people. I am considering doing something similar, but we're going to make sure that if we do something like that, because I'm thinking of doing something like for the protesters. T-shirts in their contract, but those contracts, they have to file with the city. So long as they're not violent, they can't be arrested or kidnapped and held for ransom. But it's knowing how to stand up and do these things, knowing how to express your conversation and knowledge to these men and women, so that way they're not terrorizing you. And I've been through different things in the last 30, 40 years, you know, protests and stuff myself. Yeah, and I've said different words, and the cop will sit there and they nod or they wave to the other guys, and they tell me to get the hell out. When they tell you to get the hell out, walk the hell away. Be a smart man or woman. Because they're telling you before the shit hits the fan and somebody gets sprayed with pepper spray or all of those things, they're trying to get you out of it because you're not there. You're peaceful. People want to fly this American flag. Well, look it up. It's the American war flag. Isn't that the same damn American war flag that they killed the Cheyenne, the Dakota, the Indian nations? That's the British American flag, folks. The war flag. We're waging war on you. It amazes me that the natives fly this damn flag on their property and in their damn tribal centers, because that flag is the one that took them out, poisoned them, genocide them. And there's no intelligence with some of these people. They already sold their soul to the company store. And so when you step back and watch how these things really work compared to what you think they are, and I'm posting up right now, we'll have it on the website, the separation of the peace flag. And remember, if you're going to court, walk in with the peace flag. Do not, and I've got people that I've argued with on the internet. I'm walking in with the flag. And I said, yeah, you're walking in with that flag from the 50 stars and the stripes. Yeah. And I said, so you're waging war on the judge. Oh, no. You got to realize and look at the reality. You walk in that courtroom, even though that you leave your constitutional rights or privileges at the door when you do that. So it's looking how to be smarter than the animal you're hunting. That's why when you're bear hunting, you can be smarter than the bear. When you're deer or elk hunting, you can be smarter than the deer and elk. Bird hunting is the same thing. So anytime you got to remember, you're like hunting when you go to these courts. You're hunting for the truth. You're hunting for freedom. You're hunting for the rights. But you have to know how to proceed in tracking and education and knowing how to file your paperwork. Oh, your instruments. Because everybody wants to file a document. Well, what ship are you docking at the port? Remember, when you dock a ship at the port, you have to pay to come in that area or into that state or that country. So you have to pay a tariff. So that's what fines are, is a tariff to pay because you're in what they're calling their country. So once you realize that you're not paying this stuff and you learn how to file your paperwork and stand up, it's like that video. Well, we got to post it, I think. Listen to these people. You got to realize and respect some of these men and women that are in the positions they are, but they are telling you the truth, but they can't sit there and act on it because of their administrative rules. They can tell you the truth and learn. Listen to what the gentlemen were saying about the Fifth Amendment here, including the law professor, That's why the other point is we go to, Lighthouse Law Center. They have a lot of good information on this stuff. So it's learning how to read and learn how to participate and comprehend what they're writing and read between the lines. That means research, folks. It's not just a point where you be lazy and sit on your butt. Anybody who knows me knows I'm writing and doing research all day. I'll be getting this out to other stuff this week. And when I get this one finished on the county commissioners, that's going to be served to every county commissioner because we got an election coming up with a terrorist called Kate Brown, who's not even an American. Everybody's trying to defend her. She was born in Spain, but her parents were in the Air Force. I've never seen proof. I've never seen publication proof. I've never seen certification proof. I get so damn tired of these men and women that are elected and public employees lying because they're lining their pocket off of your tax dollars if you're paying taxes. And remember, state and federal income taxes are 100% voluntary. Says it on the paperwork. When are you people going to learn how to read? See, it amazes me when it comes down to a lot of this stuff that people just follow the sheep off the cliff, and they're whining to the general public or whining to their friends and families because they weren't educated. Hey, I've been there myself 20 and 30 years ago. It took me realistically 15 years to start compiling things and start going, holy shit, what a facts of reality here. You know, it's like ordained ministers. They're there to turn against you. Pastors, preachers, popes, anybody in any religion will turn against you. Come on, you've seen it yourself. Oh, I had to call the cops because I want to do my civic duty. Civic is British law that we had to deal with and we're dealing with since the Civil War. Because civil law and civics didn't come until after the Civil War. Prior to that, there was no structure of anything like that. So when they took civics out of the schools back in the 1970s and 80s across the country, they did that deliberately to make you further a slave. That's why it's so important to research and do this stuff. So anyhow, let's go with the other video, and then we'll get further, and then we'll open up the floor. I guess our producer is dealing with a young one.
The Fifth Amendment is an amendment to the United States Constitution that is in the Bill of Rights. What it does is it limits the government's power to prosecute individuals for criminal offenses.
What the amendment says is you cannot be deprived of your life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It also prevents you from being tried twice for the same crime, what's known as double jeopardy. And the most important one that people know of on a daily basis would be your right to an attorney, your right against self-incrimination, or your Miranda rights.
Miranda was a case in Arizona in which the government was seeking to introduce a confession that they had forced Mr. Miranda to give. And that the Supreme Court had said that that was not allowed as evidence against Mr. Miranda because they had not warned him that he had the right to remain silent. They didn't tell him that anything he said could be used against him. And so when his confession was entered into evidence, the Supreme Court of the United States kicked it out and said, no, that wasn't good evidence.
If police want to speak to you about a crime, they have to let you stay quiet if you don't want to talk. And that's not just empty words. There are punishments if they don't.
Even if you're innocent, it's maybe even more important if you're innocent to get the legal advice.
All participants are unmuted.
So yeah, he's got a valid point. We got to work together, and that's the whole point. And the one thing that they were talking about, the Miranda rights, if you get kidnapped and held for ransom, make sure you put that in the filing. They say it doesn't matter, that they don't need it. Every court has proven until, including in 1992 in a court case that said the Miranda rights have to be expressed to you or the cop and the case is dismissed. And I know I posted that case around. So anyhow, the floor is open right now. Anybody like to chime in? Okay. Well, we see this is going to be a short one tonight. That's okay. But you got to remember when it comes down to this stuff, and then we're going to get in the Sixth Amendment. There's more that meets the eye on that. But remember, your First Amendment covers all your amendments, and your Second Amendment protects you and your rights. And there's court cases where cops are being shot today, and because of people breaking in their home. And the other point is, you got to realize if they're attempting to do a foreclosure on your home, or kidnap and steal your property by theft, by deception, they have to have probable cause, number one, and they have to file in court and prove the case. Not your local courts, folks. Not your state courts. When you get into this stuff, and I keep preaching to people, I've watched people in the last couple of months lose their cases because they go into these damn corporation state courts, and it's like you have to file it in federal court. And federal court is not capital letters. learn your court system, the separation of Article 1 and Article 3 courts. And it's very important that you learn these things. Because the Article 3 court, you got rights. Even if you end up in an Article 1 court, you want to make sure they have an oath of office. And they'll tell you, we don't need an oath of office. Yes, they do. I post the law under 5 USC, I think it was 138. They have to have an oath of office. And so when you do this and you go to your local court and they do it, change the venue to the federal court system. You can do it. But remember, when you file to change a venue, you don't just file in your local court. You have to file it in a federal court with your local court. And that's the other point that people make mistakes when they're doing their filings. They'll file to change venue in their local court, but they don't file it in the federal court. So how is a federal court supposed to know anything? And these judges look at you and they read your paperwork and they laugh at you going, yeah, we got another sucker here. And they do laugh at you when it comes to this stuff because they go, ting, ting, I just made another $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 in my retirement package. And that's really realistically the way they look at it. It's the same thing you look at your retirement when you're putting money away in your IRA. Of course, be careful with IRAs because the banks have been stealing that for the last 20 years from people. They say they're having legal authority to do it, but if you actually read the Banking Act, they don't. But that's the other point that we'll get into eventually down the road here, dealing with the Banking Act and the laws and administration of the Banking Act. So people can start comprehending how this affects you and your home. Income taxes, property taxes. You know, I'm still here on my soil, but I'm still fighting them.
Ed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're saying on changing venue. So let's say the case has already been done and you're going back months or years later to readdress something that was done wrong and you want to take it out of state.
Oh, okay, maybe that was you finishing up. Yeah? Okay. See, when you change venue, don't forget you have to reopen the case. So you have to file to reopen the case to be heard again. And that's the one thing that people don't pay attention to. You have to file with the federal court and the state court to reopen the case. And then if the state court goes against you, they don't want it reopened. That means they're covering up things. So, and that's evidence right there that you can take into federal courts because they're trying to cover their tracks for, you know, the sheriff and everybody else who made a buck off the deal. So do you see where that comes from? Because you have to file with the lower court to reopen your case, but the federal court has authority over the local courts. I don't care what the Democrats try to tell you and stuff that they do on these talk shows and, you know, CRTV and all this other crap that they bring out. I mean, even CRTV brings out this stuff going, well, here are your rights, but then again, the police officer still has the ultimate right to dictate to you what the law is. And remember, these public service broadcasting channels from British government, because PSP is a British government structure, it's not American at all, period. And so, yes, you have to reopen your case through the local courts and set that up and to have it opened. And with the federal court, when you file it in the federal court and they don't want to reopen it, now you have to write the investigation for the federal court to investigate to them why. Does that make logical sense?
Yes, it does. Now, what is it, title and section is that for changing jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of my face, but I know what you're saying on jurisdiction, yes. And that's the one thing that when you first go to court, that's the one thing that you are filing and opening up your case under jurisdiction of that. And I know I've sent you that.
Yeah, I just can't. I'm not in front of my computer right now. I'm out doing
right, neither am I right now.
No, but then, so then as soon as this is done, I know they're going to be asking for payment. How would
No,
you
they don't
decide-
ask for payment. I've got many men and women that have gone to court today, haven't paid anything. They've even got letters from the court system says that you are exempt from paying.
even from state, because you're
Yes.
changing jurisdiction?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't have to pay for court costs. And I know you got that one. Haven't you ever read that whole 3 pages
Yes.
entirely?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what you're filing in that court to have the court do it free. So if you're not filing that and have it certified, notarized before you even send it into court, to clarify that is, and preferably if you get that certified by the Secretary of State mostly, because the Secretary of State, when they certify that, that's your opening door by the Secretary of State guaranteeing your rights too. So you can file it with your county, but also too you want to file the stuff with your county and the state Secretary of State. So when you're filing to reopen your case, you want to file that with the Secretary of State as well.
Okay, so you were going to file it with the Secretary of State, the county, the city also.
No, you're not worried about the city because the city didn't make the judgment. The judge did.
Oh, okay.
Because the judge made the statement and the decision on that. He took authority from the local city, county, and state. He took authority of that case. So he's at that point, you go after them for harm, what they've done to you, but you can't hold them in liability without the harm and proof. And that's why when you file your paperwork, you have to write what it's done, the damage is done, the harm to your reputation, the finances it cost you, public embarrassment. So you have to explain these things in your writing, what the damages are. You can quote the administrative rules, and I got several court cases people sent to me here recently that I've gone over, and I sent back to them. I said, so where's your damages? Oh, it says it right there. And I said, no, it don't. Because basically you're claiming that you are a corporation man or woman. You're not saying that you are a live American. You're not filing under 18 USC 18 what is that, 3771, corpus delicti. See, if you don't put corpus delicti in it, your case is mandatory dismissed. Doesn't matter what people think or what these attorneys or friends or family. If you don't put that to prove you are the corpus delicti, the living man or woman who's injured and how your injury happened, they're going to dismiss it. That's why 90 to 98% of cases are dismissed today. That's their loophole to dismiss your case. And so when somebody sends you a dismissed case, that's where you have to write back, say, I don't agree with your contract. Because remember, every time you deal with the court system, it is a contract under Article 1, Section 10. So it is comprehending these circumstances and stepping out, and you have to take all this stuff into one room and analyze it and produce it. You can't sit there and leave certain things out that people do, and then I've literally argued with some men on the phone here in the last couple of months over this. You know, and they filed their stuff back in the local state court, and I said, how come you didn't file it in the federal government? Oh, they have an oath. Yeah, they have an oath, but see, you're not filing it properly. You're giving them authority over you. You haven't demanded a grand jury. You haven't demanded a 12-man or woman jury that are native. And you have to check your jury out. If they're elected in public servants, they cannot be on a jury. That's why, that was one of the reasons why the cops tried to beat me to death, too, because I was putting in a bill. I actually had a Senate bill that never got a hearing to put it in so that way, elected and public employees couldn't vote and they're contractors. Because you know who they're voting for, their pocketbook. When it comes down to it, that's their pocketbook, Doesn't matter if they know the truth. It doesn't matter if they know it's going to harm them down the road. But their point is that I have my retirement, and so I can deal with that later. That's what they do. It's a standard procedure that has been taught since William Jefferson Clinton, domestic terrorist for the Queen of England and Hillary Clinton, domestic terrorist for the Queen of England, have put in. It's like I was talking to somebody the last couple of days dealing with, when it comes down to it, dealing with the controversy with Iranian and the other stuff with gold, what they're trying to take out in Nevada and stuff. It's deeper than that. And that's the one thing that people got to realize. I mean, when they're stealing your products, because the gold that they're taking, if it's not on native land and if it's on public land, we're supposed to get that dividend check ourselves. It's not supposed to go to them. And that's the one thing that they do. They sell public land. I mean, I've got my city that cut over, 1,500 trees probably just in my area alone. Now we got wind that we never had. I mean, when it was thick with fog in my area here, we never had the coldness in it. It was warm because the warmness of the fog kept in the heat that the trees kept in. And now seeing that they cut all the trees down, now we get cold weather. I mean, it used to be, 101 or 105 degrees downtown, and that's a mile and a quarter from my door. And in my valley was 70 degrees. And if the wind blew, it was a nice 70 with a 5-mile-an-hour wind. It was cool. So, and they're bitching things around and taking things away. When they sell this public land, this public timber, we're supposed to get the money, not for their pocketbook, for the city, county, and state, for their parties. And it is discussing how they're doing this stuff, and people think that they have a right to do this. No, they do not. Does that help anything?
Yes, Ed, thank you. Another question for maybe those who might not be on right now. Could we go through that again on the proper way to address an officer once we're pulled over, so people don't start, doing like what you said, going off of emails or something they heard off of YouTube on how to address an officer? That's how you do it. I mean, the right way without looking like a horse's behind.
Well, and the main thing is that if they pull you over, what's your emergency? How can I help you, sir? Where's the injured party? Where's the property damage you need assistance at? Oh, no, I need your driver's license and registration. No. I said, that's a statute, code, and administrative rule. I mean, you're supposed to enforce code of law. You're not supposed to enforce administrative rules, so how can I help you? I mean, it's being polite to these men and women, too. When you go out, and they're going to try to push your button so you can snap because they want an excuse to rip your window out, to pepper spray you, even shoot you. And they go by your body reactions. Oh, and they run that camera that they have on their shirt, and they go, well, you can see how aggressive he was, so I had to respond this way. I didn't know because I was feared for my life. Same thing you are when you get pulled over by these men and women. We're feared for our life. So, but the main thing is just be polite. As, people say, treat others, you want others to be treated by you. And treat others the way you want them to treat you. So you show respect and consideration, and most of the time they're going to show you the respect, tell you, well, you have a good day, or I'm giving you a warning. If a public servant tells you I'm giving you a warning, don't sit there and be a smart ass, say, thank you, sir, or thank you, ma'am, have a good day, and am I free to go? Am I arrested? Am I free to go? Am I under investigation for a crime? And you have to say, am I under investigation from a crime? Not that I'm just under investigation. You want them to specifically state what they're trying to put you in a criminal activity of. And these guys know it. They're trained for that. And if they're trying to do that most of the time, they just tell you to have a good day. So you've got to work with these men and women because they work with us to a degree. I know that because if it wasn't for the local fire department and to get me to the hospital back in July, I wouldn't be alive right now. That's a fact. I mean, my heart and my lungs shut down. So I've been there. I know how these things, how the pain and suffering does. So it is learning the proper ways compared to the fantasy we're taught to believe. So any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, with that, we're going to get into the 6th Amendment next week. I'm going to play a 14th Amendment tape next Saturday. It's a 15-minute, 14 and a half, something like that, to help you start comprehending how these things compile, how they start putting together. Once you realize what your Constitution is for you, lawful bloodline native, including versus legal citizenship. And I watch people on these YouTube go, I'm a citizen. You know, A citizen of what? They take it as a low-C citizen when you say a citizen. So you just open the door for assault and battery. I'm a citizen. I'm no citizen. I'm a lawful bloodline native. And I've had them go, well, lawful bloodline native to what? My family's been here for several hundred years. You know, so I'm a lawful bloodline native. Prove me wrong. Take me to court. Prove me wrong. I mean, I've even filed that in the newspapers, telling them to prove me wrong. So this is the one thing that is doing this stuff, so that way you are protected. And also, too, I do have on new.org and trackers, I do have what I've filed in the newspapers that's registered and filed with the House and Senate, Secretary of State. But see, I mean, right now I'm not pushing certain issues because I know I pushed big buttons, you know, by educating people. So, you know, that's the one thing I don't push it right now because, you know, until I get the certified letter that I want from the House and Senate or from the Secretary of State, then I'll start traveling and doing some other things. But until that happens, I'm not taking a risk. That's why I say get a letter from your senator, your congressman, your House of Representative on your rights to travel. Now you have the authority telling you have rights, not privileges. Because people yell and scream, I have rights, but what rights are you talking about? Whose rights? What country rights are you talking about? So these things need to be consideration in your own mind to open up your mind to think about these things, how you present yourself and your case to these men and women. And remember, the minute you were pulled over, I don't give a damn what any of these attorneys tell you, any of this public service broadcasts, the British public service broadcast people tell you on the YouTube channels and on their stuff, the minute you're pulled over, that is an arrest. They are detaining you. That's called detaining you. That's why you always want to insert your rights of what is the crime? Where is the injured party? How can I help you? Be polite. First words out of your mouth should be, officer, or whatever, public servant. I like public servant. Where's the emergency? Where is the injured party? Where's the property damage? How can I assist you? So when you do that, you're already opening the door on it, and they're going to try, well, I need your driver's license and registration. I didn't ask you that, sir. Well, I'm telling you, you have to do this. Well, that's a statute code and administrative rules. I'm not abiding by administrative rules. That's not mine. That's your responsibility, not mine. So when you do that, always be polite and courteous. I mean, it does help. You might not think it does, and you think you might be macho and tough and all this stuff, but yeah, I thought macho and tough once in my life, but that's why I ended up with 2 broken necks, basically from the job injuries. So, you know, that sucked because, you know, we're supposed to have insurance, and then you find out the insurance, they changed the workman's comp insurance over to the state, and they pocketed the money. I mean, at one point, risk management for the insurance company in the States used to have a set value that they would pay you because of what they did is they balanced everything off, and they took 40% of what the highest paid lawsuit was done, and they gave everybody 40%. Now they're pocketing the money because if they don't pay you, they get the money in their pocket. And that's a fact. They'll lie to you, but they get what they call bonus checks or severance pay that's put into it. And, you know, if you watch some of the severance pay that some of these public servants have got over the years, when they get a severance pay of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, that's the buyout. So it is paying attention to what the facts are, not what you think they are. So anyhow, anybody else got anything else they would like to add? Okay, with that, we'll may the Great Spirit take care of you, Mother Earth feed and clothe you and bring you life, as she's already done. Your mommy and daddy brought you life, the Great Spirit and Mother Earth. And may the Creator look over and keep us safe. Armed and dangerous. Oh, and the other point we want to bring up, the videos that we do play, we are not making profit. We're just passing the education along for these men and women that produce these videos. So we're passing their education to you. We don't charge. We don't make income off of this. And all we're doing is helping their information get spread. And that's what we want others to do with us. So that way we get the education out there for everybody to start comprehending. So it is for educational purposes only.